So first off, let's go over what carb cycling actually is. Okay, just get a good idea of carb cycling at its basics, at its core. Carb cycling is just the idea that throughout the week, we should take, based off the days, like with training, for example, we should cycle the amount of carbs we consume per day. So let's say on a Monday, there's an intense training day, you're squatting, high carbs. Okay, Tuesday, it's recovery day. You're doing nothing, right? Maybe you're doing some walking, something like that. Low carbs. Um, Thursday or Wednesday. Maybe I shouldn't teach you guys. Can't even get my days down. Wednesday. Uh, Again, another hard day. Maybe it's bench. Maybe it's upper body. A little bit less stress. That's a medium carb day. After that, you have another hard training day. That's a high carb day. Basically, it's just the idea that with the carbs, we need to do this throughout the week, right? So, to match the intense training days, the carbs are at the peak, okay? And then the days that we're not doing anything, that's where we're at the trough. That's when we're at the downside, lower carb end of the spectrum. What this does is it fuels the hard training days, okay? It gives us the energy, the carbs, right? The required nutrients and fuel in order to power our workouts, in order to give us the energy to push through. And on the non-training days, it doesn't give us the excess carbs to put on fat. So what it does is it helps us build muscle and recover quickly and gives energy on the training days. But on the off days, it doesn't utilize those carbs. It forces the non-utilization of the carbs because we don't have the carbs to build fat. So if that makes sense. However, don't get this in mind that eat a lot of carbs, eat 500 grams of carbs on Friday because I'm lifting hard. Saturday, eat 50. It's a bit extreme, and for most people, not necessary. For most people, they don't even need a carb cycle because most people don't work out hard enough to actually need it. Even me, carb cycling might not be as useful, as applicable, and I'll explain why in a second. First off, in order to have a drastic amount of increase of carbs, you need to actually be producing a lot of stress in your body. And yeah, you might work out hard, you might put a lot of energy in, but you're not producing the same amount of stress that somebody that is squatting 500 pounds in a workout is, right? If I'm only squatting 315, I mean, that might seem like a lot for some people. If I'm squatting 315 in a workout and doing a bunch of other stuff, some volume stuff, yeah, it's hard. But the overall stress I'm putting on my body isn't the same as someone who's squatting double what I'm squatting. It's just not. It's apples and oranges, right? So it's this idea that people that are on that higher end, the elite level lifters and athletes in general, that's who should be eating those excess carbs on their training days. And because this has actually been adopted from athletes, from their dieting, right? Think, if you used to play football, or really any sport, but especially football, is before the game day, the night before, you'd have a lot of pasta. You have the pasta dinner. And throughout the day leading up, you'd have some protein, but you'd have a lot of carbs because it would fuel your workouts or fuel the game. And before the game, you'd have, maybe some lower quality sugar, something along those lines, some starches, things like that. Because those are extremely intense, very very rough cardiovascular exercise, really, and it's going to push your body a lot more than some workouts will. Plus, throughout the week, they're not working out as hard as someone who's sticking to like a strict regimen. So then, as you're building up to it, it's more necessary to spike the carb level, right? But as someone who works out regularly, there won't be as much carryover from those spikes because it's going to bleed over into the next day. Your high carbs on Friday, it's nothing's in a bubble. It's not. You're still going to be eating your glycogen and the leftover effects from the carbs you ate yesterday are going to bleed over in today, right? So you have the difference between the elite level athletes and the standard level athletes, but beyond the actual force and the weight and the work they're producing, there's also the idea of why you actually carb cycle in the first place. Most people, they should either be cutting or bulking, not maintaining. Most people should be putting on muscle mass and getting rid of fat. I'm putting on muscle mass. I don't want to maintain. There's no purpose in me maintaining right now. If I was peaking, for example, and getting ready for a meet, and I didn't want to add on any fat, didn't want to put on any weight, then I would maintain. I explain this because carb cycling is best for maintenance phases. Okay, it's about as effective as a standard diet is, which means that really you're putting in a lot of extra work for roughly the same results if you're looking purely for fat loss. It's best if you want to hold on to muscle mass and burn fat slowly on a shorter time frame. Keep in mind too that carb cycling shouldn't be something that's done on a really long spectrum, especially drastic carb cycling, because that's something that can affect your health, reducing. I mean, there's some debate on the health benefits of fasting, because that can be what it turns into, and I think anything too drastic that can hurt you in the long run. So anything extreme, right? You just want to be cautious with that. But anyways, as it relates to cutting and bulking, not going to be too effective for bulking because to bulk, to add on weight, you need carbs in your off days in order to repair your muscles and grow new ones and also build fat too. And when you're reducing that, you're reducing your ability to build muscle. You're allowing your body to recoup, but not recover fully and repair and build that muscle that you destroyed from that workout, right? Because you're not giving yourself the amount of carbs you need the next day on your recovery day to actually recover fully. All you're doing is maintaining. So keep in mind, not ideal for guys that are bulking or girls. And while it can be useful, probably not the best method of cutting. I would say you should just stick to a standard diet. And then once you start hitting a plateau or you get to a point, that you can't get much more out of it and you need the few pounds left, that's when you can initiate it, because it can help mess up your, not mess up, but the variation can knock off your base metabolic rate. Base metabolic rate is just this idea. It's your body's base calorie burning like throughout the day. So from sitting here, I burn X amount of calories. Something that varying your amount of your calorie intake, your carb intake can break the cycle of it steadying out. Because a lot of people will hit a plateau where their metabolic rate it actually adjusts to their diet. So they have to keep lowering the calories, and pretty soon they're just eating a stupid low amount of food. So something where you're adding in refeeds or carb cycling can help readjust that base metabolic rate to climb back up. So in review, basically average person, if you're dieting, if you're cutting down, don't need to do it unless you hit a plateau, then think about it. If you're bulking, definitely stay away from it. Just stick with a steadier carb intake. Maybe think about before you work out, eat a little bit of extra carbs. Can't hurt. You'll probably be okay. People can get away with eating some extra food if they're bulking anyways. If you're maintaining, maybe think about it. Definitely think about it if you're on a more of an elite level and you're putting a lot of work in the gym. That's the time that I would really advocate for it. I would be an advocate for it, is if you are putting in a lot of work and you're putting in a lot of stress in your body.